All right, today we have the what is essentially the third place match in the season two final stage for Calculation League. We have Rahul Robin from India and Kaloyan Geshev from Bulgaria. Um, this is for both of them. This is their 15th match of the season. Today, Rahul would need to win this match by 16 points to actually overtake Kaloyan in the standings, which is a probably an implausible outcome. But great seasons for both of them. Um, Rahul, for those who are not so familiar with him, I think he is about 30 years old. He is not Soroban trained, even though he is from India. Um, this is a difficult matchup with him with Kaloyan in part because his strengths and weaknesses are actually very similar to Kaloyan's. He has extremely good visualization. He is good with division, and he is relatively good at complex questions as well. The strengths overall, they're similar to Kaloyan's strengths. The weaknesses, relative to other top tier competitors, not so much, not the Soroban addition speed, and not much practice with cross multiplication. So also, um, you know, similar to the things that Kaloyan does not prefer to do, which makes it difficult for this match because it's hard to get a question set that he would win on. Um, okay, so we've started. We're almost 2 minutes in. Kaloyan has a 3 point lead, 2 point lead now. Um, for those who are not so familiar, um, matches are in the final stage, minimum 20 minutes. Default time is 40 minutes. If somebody is up by 50 during that time period, the match ends. Otherwise, you need to win by a maximum of 5, and the match continues going up to 60 minutes if the match is within 5. We have multi-operation questions like what they both have on the screen right now. These questions have sort of randomly generated format using just addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Um, they they have some limitations on what that format can be. There's only one division allowed in the question to prevent confusion, but otherwise, there's a wide range of difficulty on those multi-operation questions. The rest of the questions, like what they now have and what they've moved to, these are list questions. They're questions that might be similar to what is done in other mental calculation competitions. A lot of them, many of them, are inspired by questions that were used at the Mental Calculation World Cup or the Mind Sport Olympiad competition or even JMCWC. Um, Kaloyan's still up 2. We're about 3.5 minutes in. What you see on the screen, they have a button you can move between left and right to left typing. You don't need to click the button. You can click the shift key on your keyboard. That will do it for them, and the button will turn red to indicate to them that they are typing from right to left. You have 30 seconds, obviously, to answer the question, but you also have a maximum of 5 guesses. There's no direct penalty for getting the question wrong. You can guess up to 5 times per question. After fourth guess, that submit answer button will turn yellow, indicating you only have one more guess. And after fifth guess, it will turn red, and you have to wait for the timer to expire. Okay, so they're moving along really at the almost the same pace here. Kaloyan with a just over 10-second advantage going through questions. He has gotten a few extra questions correct. Certainly, I noticed at the very beginning he had that factorization question correct. 4.5 minutes in, Kaloyan is up by 3 points. Not particularly surprising result so far. So on the multi-operation questions you see on the screen, as we move through the different stages, the number of digits changes. So in regular season mode, those are mostly one-digit numbers, and they can be two-digit, but they cannot be three-digit numbers. When we move to playoff mode, we add in some three-digit numbers, although they still 50% of them are one-digit numbers. Now when we're in final mode, most of the questions are either two digits or three digits, with two digit being the most common one. So we have a question like what Kaloyan has on the screen: A times B divided by C times D with additions and subtractions. On that question, you can make your best effort to estimate the question because we require two significant digits to the answer. So you are not truly trying to solve. Rahul has the question now, so you can work on A over C and B over D, or A over D and B over C. You estimate it to a few 2-3 significant digits and try to get your answer. Kaloyan has what is a find the average of these numbers, which is there are 9 numbers, and so it's addition divided by 9. You will have to do that whole addition and do divisions either at the end, which if you're Aryan or sometimes Sunand are able to do, or you have to stop each time you add through a column and divide it and then keep moving. Kaloyan has a question now on the screen. This is from the Mental Calculation World Cup 2022, and I know that because I won this question. But this has made it much more difficult by the fact it is a horizontal format, which makes it much more difficult to scan through and solve. Okay, 7 minutes in, Kaloyan is up by 8 points. So again, 40-minute match maximum. Kaloyan would need to get to 50 to win the match, to end the match early. Very difficult, very, very difficult. It would, for him to accomplish that against Rahul. The statistics from our season would say that won't happen today, but as the questions get more difficult, Kaloyan tends to perform better relative to others, and certainly I think if we had a higher difficulty level on this app, he would continue to move up relative to the other competitors. So Kaloyan has a very difficult question here: 6403 to the 0.22. So you can try to square that and take the 9th root and see how close you are, or you can try to use logarithms. Very difficult kind of question. Those aren't really used in other mental calculation events, but they've been interesting here, and they've been a new challenge especially for the top competitors. The question he has right now is that was derived from Mental Calculation World Cup 2024 surprise task, where we're comparing roots, exponents, and divisions together. We don't use greater than, less than in this format, so instead of just asking which one's greater or less than, and put a subtraction in there and made you calculate it. If I recall correctly, Kaloyan did win that task at the 2024 World Cup. Okay, we're approaching 9 minutes in. Kaloyan is still up 7. They are moving relatively fast. Just looking at their scores, this appears to be a maybe average to slightly faster than average match. I think it's hard to say whether a fast match benefits one competitor or the other. It's I wouldn't say there's a clear benefit, but faster matches obviously allow the competitors, if you have an advantage, to gain a larger lead because the scores are bigger. But Kaloyan is also very good at difficult questions, so it seems to sort of cancel out. We have these mixed addition subtraction questions, not used that much in mental calculation events that are in the Western based events, although They're certainly used in the Sorbonne community. It can be really difficult if you're used to only doing additions to reframe how you're doing it and make sure you're not missing a subtraction in there. Okay, we've crossed the 10-minute mark. Kaloyan up by 11, 12 points here. Rahul's got three two-digit fractions here times 10. It wasn't so difficult for him. You can estimate those certainly to just two decimal places, and then add them up and multiply it by 10, and you should either be correct or be close enough that you can move your answer 0.1 or 1. So a little bit more background. Rahul, Calculation League Season 1 was really his first significant experience competing or participating in Western-based mental calculation competitions. He, before that, was regular participant competitor on certain online mental math games or training sites. It wasn't until partway through Season 1 that I realized that this username Robin was actually Rahul on certain websites. But he has very good speed and very good ability to multi-operation questions. While many of those who are used to practicing for the World Cup or for Memoria don't have much exposure to multi-operation questions, that is something that Rahul on his own had been practicing before participating in Calculation League, and that certainly is extremely helpful for this format. He has a system of equations question here, and these questions pretty difficult when you have 3 or 4. You if you're trying to do this in 30 seconds, I would try to isolate the variable that is the first equation where you can solve for that z because x and y are so small. All of our answers are between 1 and 30 for each variable, but they're very difficult questions. It often takes a little bit of luck. And then Kaloyan is he is now the 3-time defending champion at the MSO. With all due respect to the remaining competitors for the 2025 version, it would be a huge surprise to everybody if he doesn't make it 4 in a row. I believe that is next weekend. Kaloyan is also the second place finisher from the 2024 World Cup, as well as the winner of his age category at JMCWC at least twice, if not more than that. Kaloyan also, I think he recently did an event at Maine University in Sofia where he set a new sum of squares record, and he did a TED Talk in Bulgaria just recently. As of the last time I checked, there's no video available for it yet, but hopefully there is. Okay, we are approaching 14 minutes here. Kaloyan up 12 now. Again, going to be very difficult to manage to actually get the 50-point lead against Rahul. Rahul's very, very strong competitor. Very consistent as well. Doesn't tend to make many mistakes and can solve some difficult questions that are challenging for other skilled competitors, and that can give him an advantage. So Kaloyan with a large multi-operation question on the screen. When you have four three-digit numbers in the numerator and you're only dividing by two, that is going to be a very, very difficult question to answer. Unless one of those, more than one of those numbers on the numerator can be factored out quickly, it's going to be very difficult. In this case, now he has 2 and 1. This was something he should be able to solve with the two of those three numbers ending in a 0. And he has it. Cube roots, maybe Kaloyan's favorite thing. I'm not sure. One of his favorite things. I'm not exact. We don't really have any competition where cube roots is often used. The MCWC did use cube roots for a little bit, but that was years ago. I think this number is quite big compared to what you would ever get, and he was able to solve it. Factorizing the 9-digit number, that is an extremely difficult task, even for Kaloyan. Unless you're getting lucky here, he's gonna hope that was prime, and it wasn't. 9-digit number, 30 seconds. Not something that is typically going to be done unless you can get lucky or the question is on the easier side. (52 to the 7th power). That is maybe that is doable. I don't have the visualization to do that. Okay, Rahul has the same four three-digit numbers in the numerator, 2 in the denominator. That is even with the first one in the denominator being 1180. Those numbers aren't nice enough to work with, I don't think. Maybe Wenzel or Aryan, maybe. Okay, we're at 17.5 minutes, Kaloyan up 17-18, sticking at about almost exactly a 1-point lead per minute. Definitely has been they both are going slightly faster than normal. With these kind of questions that you see on the screen, it's really difficult to say, well, this looks like a relatively easy question set, because obviously these questions don't look relatively easy, but it does look like it's compared to the average finals set, maybe a little bit easier. Rahul now doing the cube root. He's using quite a range on these guesses. Okay, Kaloyan, yep, that was too quick. Okay, so Kaloyan now has a question that is inspired by another Mental Calculation World Cup 2024 surprise task, except we made it more difficult for the later stages, and this is really difficult. Moving around a bunch of 3x3 multiplications, extremely challenging. You would have to have incredible visualization, or probably really good cross multiplication with a lot of practice of that specific format. So he's got a 5x3x3. I admittedly do not know how Kaloyan approaches a question like 5x3x3. You could certainly multiply one of the first two numbers by 37 and then try to do the final multiplication and type the answer as you go. You could have multiplied the second and third together and try to do a 5x5 that you can't see. He's got another cube root. He did that very quickly, but it wasn't correct. There. Rahul working on a cube root now. This one, 9-digit number. So answer obviously 3 digits, and he does solve it. So we've hit 20 minutes. Kaloyan's lead 15. So at this point in time, if he were to get to 50 at any point going forward, the match would end. As you can tell, though, it is not likely. Tricky part of these mixed addition subtraction questions is you cannot be sure whether that number is going to be a positive or a negative as the answer. When those formats are used in Japan or Eastern Sorbonne communities, typically they require that the answer is going to be positive, and there are also rules that limit how much subtraction can be used. We don't use those rules, and that answer can be negative, so you do need to check at the beginning whether that answer is positive or negative. I suppose you do need to make sure that you've identified it as positive or negative before you start. Rahul with this very, very difficult question. Taking a 30-second break here. Okay, so Rahul has the 5x3x3. Very challenging, although within the range of plausibility. So let's see if he can solve it. Again, I think depending on how good your visualization is, you would just multiply 37 by maybe 319 and do the 5x5, or you could multiply it by the larger number and then see if you can hold that in your head and multiply it by 319. Very difficult, but it's not so difficult that they're not going to try. He's got an 11-digit cube root. No. Seems like there's been a lot more than normal in for larger additions and as well as cube roots in this match, as well as questions like that. This one not so difficult on Kaloyan's screen. A times B times C. I mean, you can just do that normal 4x4 multiplication and multiply things by 8 as you're going. I think Kaloyan's trying to do the whole thing, and see if he. He did try to do the whole thing. Didn't turn out correct, but that is a lot more taxing on your visualization than it really needed to be. Okay, square root for Kaloyan. He's got to identify how many digits it is, and he just 9 digits. Yeah. Okay, I factorized 4-digit number. Another thing that he's gonna go through really quickly there. We're at 24 minutes. Kaloyan up by 17. It's been relatively constant here for a while. Kaloyan doing this A times B times C with 2 3-digit numbers and a 4-digit number. He pulled it off, and now his reward is another one that's about the same difficulty. I will intend to post an instructional video in the near future on how to different methods to solve this question, although this is not something I would consider myself particularly skilled at. I will try to share the different approaches used by people. Very easy system of equations question here, and no, so yeah, you still have to think about it, but that should be about as easy as it gets. This one you could actually solve using the school method by canceling out one of either the x or y completely and leaving one variable to solve for. Okay, Rahul, 8 to the 7th divided by 35. Seems doable. Expect he will get this. No. Okay, Kaloyan has a times b plus c times d. This is a 6 by 5 plus a 6 by 6. You would have to be extremely good at cross multiplication to get this question. Absolutely doable though, but you need to be very comfortable with cross multiplication. That is not Kaloyan's preferred thing to be doing. Rahul doing square root. He 9-digit number. He is pretty good at square roots, and he got the second try. Factorizing the 4-digit number. Also got that quickly. We have 2 remaining scheduled matches for Calculation League Season 2. We have Wenzel and Aryan playing their first match on Saturday, April 5th. And then we have a second match that will likely be played 2 weeks later. Both of those matches should have co-hosts from outside of the Season 2 competitors helping to narrate the match. Season 3 competition we will begin working on shortly after Season 2 concludes. There's tension to have some noticeable changes while keeping the general fast-paced, varied question style. Kaloyan up 20 here, 28 minutes in. I think these Kaloyan and Rahul, I think this is their third match. I believe they played twice in Season 1. I know they played in what was the essentially the third place match in the Season 1 playoffs. Kaloyan was able to win that match. I do not recall, but I believe it was a little bit less competitive than this match. And if I recall correctly, they played in the Season 1 regular season toward the beginning, really before Rahul had adjusted to the new types of questions that were something he wasn't really used to. So at the end, we have the same top 4 as in Season 1: Wenzel, Aryan, Kaloyan, and Rahul. Okay, here is Kaloyan with another system equation question. And he solved it yet. We also have these, as you've seen throughout the match, standard multiplication questions that really aren't standard because they're very lopsided. 2 by 9. I'm not sure. He's going to multiply this out 2 by 2, 2 by 2, 2 by 2, 2 by 2, 2 by 1. Okay, Rahul, and I didn't see this when Kaloyan got this, a 9th root of a number. If I'm counting this correctly, 13-digit number that should not be a 3-digit answer. I have no idea how one would go about actually solving to like significant accuracy a ninth root, but I mean, in our format, 2 significant digits, you could try to estimate it. Kaloyan just does an a times b times c square root of the result very quickly. 30.5 minutes in, Kaloyan up 21. Not particularly surprising result, really somewhat as expected. And as mentioned at the beginning, because Rahul has a similar strength and weakness profile compared to Kaloyan, not much room for surprise. Rahul is to somehow not reading the question correctly. That is not a negative number. Clearly, the square root is between 7 and 8, and the next number is 6.25. Okay, Rahul with a large mod question on the screen. That is extremely difficult to solve. When with a much smaller, I don't even know what it's called, the second number, you simply divide out from left to right, keeping the remainder. With a much larger number, you can try to estimate the integer answer and then do cross multiplication backwards. But in the middle like that, you'd have to have extraordinary visualization. Really, this looks Kaloyan, very difficult system of equation question here. Plausible, you isolate the y in the third equation and then try to solve for the z in the first equation, possibly, but that would be very difficult. Kaloyan up 21. We are at 32.5 minutes. Unless I have forgotten something, that the scores, given the length of this match and the speed that they're going, Kaloyan solving impressive sum of squares there. Kaloyan may have a chance to set the record here for season 2 for most total points in a match, with a 40-minute match with Rahul staying within 50 and Kaloyan having a good match. A very, very difficult question on the screen. 302 to the 4.7 power. The only way you're going to try to do this is with using logarithms. 302 is pretty close to 300. You might be able to estimate this, and you use the logarithms, have a chance to maybe get 2 significant digits. If it's 3, it's going to be quite hard. I believe there are no questions where you have to do more than 4, and I don't think I've seen anybody do 4. Another question for Kaloyan that seems to be extraordinarily difficult, if not possible. This one again, variation of kind of this more difficult version of the mental calculation World Cup surprise task. You're going to cube 6.46 and then compare it to the division. He got it. Factorizing 7-digit number. This one ends in 808, so he's got 4 2s already. He's running out of time. That's too many factors in that number. Just past 35 minutes. Kaloyan's still up 21. Match been pretty close since the beginning. Rahul has been holding even. Some difficult questions. We are both over 100 now. That may be the first match. This may be the first match this season where both competitors have hit triple digits. Yeah, I think it is. Okay, Rahul solving 6-digit sum of squares. Competitors on this question are either going to just find the largest square that's smaller than the number and work on that, or they're going to pick an easy square like 800 or 840 and then try to solve more detail those for smaller numbers. Okay, Rahul has sufficient knowledge of logarithms to at least attempt this question, but I do not, so I do not even know how to evaluate how difficult it is, and he did not. Now he's left with this, what looks to be a not possible multi-operation question. Again, the comparison with the one on the Kaloyan screen is when it's the number small, you only need 2 significant digits. So solving for 2, plausible, although even then it's going to be difficult for Kaloyan. He does get it. And on the one on Rahul's screen, you're going to need a lot of digits of accuracy there, and not really plausible. All right, Kaloyan with a 5th root minus a 6th root with some very large numbers. I do not know how to solve that in 30 seconds. 5th root's not something that people are particularly comfortable doing. I'm not sure anybody has really truly practiced 5th roots. Okay, this looks like a rather easy multi-operation question for Kaloyan. Quickly does it. 100 seconds left. Kaloyan up 23. Getting close. I do not know off the top of my head whether he is going to, how close he is to the highest point total this season. Good likelihood that in one of the Wenzel Aryan matches we see a new record point total, regardless of what the current record is. Less than 1 minute to go. Rahul with a standard cross multiplication question. He is running out of time. I think he did get it. I'm not sure. Okay, so we're 10 seconds left. Match will end once it hits 2400 and either a question expires or a user submits an answer, and that is the end.